A Home to Remember. A Home to Remember, Al Sullivan.
I can't believe it's been almost a year. How time flies. I shouldn't have taken it for granted so much. But who knew that I would fall in love and miss a building constructed of bricks and mortars and surrounded by grass this much? I guess it wasn't just a building after all. It was a home. It was a home for 36 years. 36 Christmases, 36 birthdays. It was my home. I was 11 years old when we first moved into the house. It was a red brick house with no front door, and it was square. It was boring. There was no stucco, there was no arch. Where did you get in? It was jerk kids playing across the street that there's no way that I would ever be friends with them. They were not my friends. I hated my parents for selling my old house and for selling my old friends. Who knew that one of those jerk kids would eventually become my best friend? Who knew? Those first few weeks were really, really sad for me. The only kids around were those jerk kids, and I didn't want anything to do with them. I missed my old friends. The house? There had putrid wallpaper on every single wall. The kitchen floor was blood red. The basement had gray cement walls, and its floor was also a red cement floor. Ugh! It was disgusting. I hated every single inch of that house. Hated it. I just wanted to go back home. I don't know when it all started to change, but it really did. I remember the day we went for a walk, and when I came back, there was this kid sitting on my curb with his red hair and his big smile, and he was just waiting for me. That day, I never realized how much time I would spend with him for the rest of my life. I was Anne's best man, twice. And now he's my roommate. We spent hours and hours and hours in that basement. That basement became the hangout for every single one of the neighborhood kids. Even those jerk kids that lived across the street. There was parties in this house. There were so many parties in this house. At Christmas, we'd have over 40 family members celebrating. We had a 25-pound turkeys. We had parties and games upstairs. We had games downstairs. And dancing. Even during times of death, we would party. We had grand celebrations to celebrate the passing of my grandmother, my mother, and even lastly, my father. There was over 50 people in our house, really enjoying their lives and celebrating everything they had to offer. And there was an abundance of rye. Even after I left the house, I spent a lot of time there helping my parents take care of the place. This was a house of high maintenance. Just for an example, we had 2 laneways. One had 4 cars, the other one had room for 2 cars. Imagine the shoveling. Thank God I don't live there this winter. After 29 years of this, my dad couldn't handle it anymore, and after my mom passed, he decided that he had to move on. And he offered to sell the house to me and who is now my ex-wife. How could I not buy this house? The walls, the floors, the windows, they were the only home I could now remember. So I did. I bought the house. And who knew, with 29 years of memories, that there was 7 more with even more memories, probably more than the first 29 years. My wife and I decided to get married in the backyard. We had a nice, quaint little wedding under a tent with my dream of having Led Zeppelin's Thank You played during the ceremony. There was over 100 people in my backyard that night, and guess what happened? A party! A big party! There was a bar tent with a gigantic tub of ice-cold beer for everybody to enjoy. And yes, there was some rye. Now, I would have thought that was the end. But it was in year 33 where the biggest memory of my life has ever happened in that house. We had planned to have a home birth for my first child. However, she decided that she was going to be born there either way. And at 3:35 a.m. on November 19, 2008, I caught Madeline as she came out of her mother. She gave new life and brought new life into this house and gave a new meaning to the word home. My daughter Peyton was born 2 years later as well in the house, and she claimed her own little spot. These girls both remember the house, and you know what they call it? They call it their old house. I constantly remind them that this was more than a house for them. This is where they were brought into this world. This was their first home. This summer I had to sell the house. I'll never miss the laneways. But I'll never forget the years that I spent there. I'll never forget all the events that have occurred there, like flying over the house in a hot air balloon, or the house getting struck by lightning. I don't remember my old house, and I don't remember my old friends. I do remember Alain and the jerk kids across the street. And the 36 years of memories that that house gave me, I'll always remember. 36 years of my life that I will always cherish. And on most days, I wish it was 37. Mr. Carter.
So let's allow judges time to complete their ballots. So please stay silent.